Hello and welcome to Your Simplified Coin Review. Today we are going to be taking a look at Lisk. But before we go any further, as always, make sure you're a subscriber to our channel. Also hit the bell so you get notifications when we do a video. And don't forget, smash that like button for us. As the more people that like this video, the more people will get to know about Lisk. And if you're a fan of the project, then you want that. So what is Lisk? Lisk has a interesting history. So Lisk actually evolved from what was known as the Crypti blockchain. It was a totally different project, and Lisk was a fork from Crypti. So we will get into the team a little bit and the CEO, but the main thing to understand is that Max Kordek and Oliver Beddows both went from the Crypti project to work on Lisk. Now, Lisk is an open source platform to which people can build decentralized apps on top of it. You can also build smart contracts into Lisk, but Lisk is not a smart contracts platform. So Lisk is also known for its SDK. If you don't know what an SDK is, it's a software development kit. So Lisk wants to make it very easy for their developers to get onto their platform and start building. So it's also built with JavaScript. So think of it like this. A lot of different platforms, even if you go with centralized companies and look at Apple and Android or Google, what they've done is they have their own languages that people must build apps on top of. So that's why, a lot of times someone will come out with an app for the iPhone, but yet the Android one will still be in progress or vice versa. So what Lisk has done is they built their platform with JavaScript, meaning that most developers already know the language. It's one of the fundamental languages in developing. So a lot of people are going to be able to know how to use JavaScript and, in fact, use it. So because of that, they have made their software development kit very simplified for people who know how to use JavaScript. You don't have to learn a new language like you do with Ethereum or some of the other projects. So that's a big thing that Lisk has going for it. So the Lisk mainnet has been live since 2016. It is a DPoS platform, meaning delegated proof of stake. Dan Larimer from EOS is the one who created DPoS, and that is what Lisk uses. So that also means that if you are a Lisk holder, that you have a chance to get rewards. And with Lisk, apparently the rewards are pretty good. With a delegated proof of stake comes voting. And the Lisk mainnet is secured by 101 elected delegates that are able to govern the platform. So let's jump into the numbers on Lisk. Lisk right now is coming in at number 24, and as I mentioned, their mainnet has launched, so it is a coin, which means it's on its own platform. Current price is $5.56. It's obviously near the end of June right now, so things have been terrible, so the prices are all down. The market cap is almost $597 million. The volume is $7 million over the last 24 hours. Circulating supply is 107 million Lisk, and the total supply is 122 million Lisk. So it has been around, as I mentioned, since June of 2016. So we'll just kind of zoom in since January and take a look. And you can see it's the same chart we look at almost every review. It was up, it was down, it was up, it was down, it was up, it was down. So, hopefully we will be returning to some bigger numbers. So this is the Lisk website. They recently have had a little rebrand with their logo. They have a much cleaner logo than they had before. Before it kind of looked like a rock. So now it looks a lot cooler. They talk about use cases. So here on the website, they show different examples. And one thing I want you to notice about this is, as I'm going over these examples, I think you could probably find an ERC20 on the Ethereum platform that does each one of these things. For instance, the removing borders, send value around the world in seconds and with much lower fees. You can find ERC20s that are doing that. Crowd wisdom, it's based on crowdsourced data. I know there are ERC20s out there doing that. So it just continues on. Gaming, content creators, you can think of Poet, for instance. Transparent to the core, so it has supply chains. You can do donation apps on the platform. And basically it talks about healthcare, real estate, autonomous vehicles, file management, and then it's immutable. Obviously, that would have implications in the legal and human resources sector. And the long and the short of this is, like I said, each one of these are use cases for apps that can be built on the Lisk platform. So they could be built on Ethereum or they could be built on Lisk. So the draw with Lisk, as I said at the beginning, it's very easy programming language for people to understand, as opposed to some of the more complicated languages out there, that you'll deal with Ethereum or, a ton of other platforms. And that's why we talked about before also that the SDK that comes along with Lisk, they made it very easy for people to be able to develop on the platform. So the infrastructure of Lisk, as you can see here, it's made up of three things. There's the application layer, the sidechain layer, and the main chain layer. So the application layer is obviously where you're going to build your decentralized apps. The sidechain is kind of your own personal blockchain where you are able to build and develop. And then there is the main chain. The main chain is basically what hooks everything in together on the platform. On the website, you can learn more from their academy and about documentation. It gives you overviews of all kinds of things from what is blockchain technology to what's consensus protocol. And there is just a ton of stuff that you can learn here. I think probably most people that are watching this have a good idea of these things, but think about it like this. What they're trying to do here is they're trying to take developers and pull them onto their system, because you can be a developer and know nothing about blockchain. So that's really why with Lisk, they have such an emphasis on the website on learning, because they're trying to pull programmers in. So a lot of people have been building on the Lisk platform. So between their GitHub and Gitter account, they've had more than 8,000 contributions. So it is pretty active. They have a pretty strong community. We will look at some of that in just a second. So you can find the roadmap right on the site. Where we are currently, in quarter one, they host a relaunch event to unveil its new website, branding, product names, and client interface. I've already touched on that. Lisk Core 1.0 will ramp up with network efficiency, scalability, and stability. So really where Lisk is right now is it's running, it's working. And so right now it's just time for them to really focus on getting people onto the network and getting people to build the decentralized apps to make Lisk a successful platform. So you can also find their team. One thing I thought was interesting is that, Max Kordek is the CEO. And as you can see, he's not even like the top person on here. It's like a little cloaked humility. You know what I mean? So he is the president and CEO. And if we go down a little bit further, I'm sure we will be able to find Oliver. Here he is at the bottom. So even more humility by the team. So let's look at Max Kordek. Here is his little bio on the website. You can get to his LinkedIn, which I always like, and his Twitter and GitHub. When Max first read about blockchain technology at the end of 2012, he realized its great potential. That was the moment he decided to place all of his focus on the technology. And a lot has been written about this guy. A lot of people really like Max Kordek. This was on Business Insider back in 2016. So it talks about Max Kordek and Oliver Beddows here. It says the co-founders, they live in separate countries and have never even met, and they're trying to create a new kind of money. I'm sure at this point they probably have met, but I thought this was interesting. Max Kordek is a 24-year-old Bitcoin wizard from Germany. Next week, him and his co-founder, 37-year-old Oliver Beddows, will launch their company Lisk. And this is a little bit about the ICO, if you will, for Lisk. And Lisk is such an exciting idea that during the 30-day crowdfunding campaign, nearly 4,000 people chipped in a total of $6 million in Bitcoin to fund their seed round. So this project was, and I think it probably was successful right off the rip, mainly because it was coming from, even though Crypti is a defunct blockchain that's not currently working, there were probably a lot of people or investors they were able to pull in from that project. So it was almost convenient that as they were launching this, that was going down. So there were probably some people with some money looking, where they could put it. And this is very interesting because this really sums up, I think, what Lisk is. Lisk is two things: a new kind of app store and a new form of internet money similar to Bitcoin. So here is the Lisk Twitter. As you can see, they have 191,000 followers. So Lisk at one time was in the top 10 in cryptocurrency. So they probably were able to benefit on that good run to get a lot of followers. But that is a huge community, much larger than most of the projects we look at. As you can see, they're not tweeting every day, but almost every day they are tweeting, sometimes multiple times in one day. Sometimes they'll skip around. It seems like just mainly they're tweeting when there's news to tweet, which, is better than just tweeting for the sake of it. So there's 30,000 people on Reddit for Lisk. They call themselves Liskers, so almost 30,000. I've also checked out the Telegram group. I think they had about 5,000 people in the Telegram group. It wasn't super active, which in my opinion is much better. I mean, how many of you guys have been in a Telegram group and you can't catch up reading things because there are like 10,000 different messages per minute? That may be a slight exaggeration, but that's certainly what it feels like. With Lisk, it feels like you can read most of the messages, which I like. I posted something on the Telegram group about, what people in Lisk wanted me to talk about in this review. What are things that people don't know? And the main thing that was brought up was just, like I said, the delegated proof of stake, that you do get a lot of rewards for being part of that system. You can either do it as an individual or you can join a pool, and the rewards are pretty good. So a lot of people, I don't think, realize that with Lisk, that there is a DPoS reward system. But back to the Reddit here, it is pretty active. They've got a ton of posts per day on here. They do have some that get a lot of comments, and it's a pretty active community. But to me, Lisk is it doesn't have the same kind of notoriety that some of the other top projects have. And I'm not exactly sure why that is, because it seems like they're doing something really good. I know, I'm not going to get into it too much, but I know there have been a few issues along the way with Lisk. Nothing that, is super detrimental or that they haven't gotten worked out. But, it hasn't been a perfect project, but it's been a good project, and it's been a very steady project. From its inception a couple years ago to now, it's been able to slowly plod along and make progress. And now, like I said, it has a working mainnet, and it has, people building a lot of applications on top of it right now. And it'll be really interesting to see the results of some of those applications. If you guys are in the Lisk community and you know of some applications that have already been built on Lisk, then please let us know. I'd love to look into them. I love decentralized applications. To me, it's the most interesting thing in cryptocurrency, pretty much, is seeing the actual working products that are being built. So if you guys know of some, drop them in the comment below. I'd love to check them out. So overall, I think Lisk is a very solid project with a very solid team behind it. Lisk is not sexy. Like, Lisk is not going to come out tomorrow and just absolutely blow your socks off and have some kind of news that the price is going to shoot way up. That's probably not going to happen with Lisk. But what Lisk has been very consistent. So they set goals and they meet them. They set goals and they meet them. And stability and consistency, I think, goes a very long way. Also, with the mainnet being a couple years old, they have a big jump on a lot of other projects. What are the drawbacks of Lisk? As I said, they have had a few problems. The main issue being earlier this month, basically Lisk went down because as a failsafe to a bug that was found. That's not necessarily a negative thing. Like, wouldn't you rather it have a failsafe and the failsafe work than the bug getting in and creating all kinds of problems in the code? Of course you would. So, it's not necessarily that it's a terrible thing that happened, but it was a little hiccup for Lisk. The biggest problem with Lisk, in my mind, is the same thing we talk about all the time with different cryptocurrencies, especially with these platform coins, is that Lisk has so much competition. It's got Ethereum. People have called Lisk the Ethereum killer, but guess what? They also call EOS the Ethereum killer. They call Tron the EOS killer. Whatever is a platform that's in the top 50 on CoinMarketCap, people say could be the Ethereum killer. So I honestly don't think anything will kill Ethereum. I think Ethereum is really solid. It's got so many projects on it. It's hard for me to see it failing at any point. But I do think that, there's room for multiple platform cryptocurrencies, but there's not infinite space for them. Like, if you had the choice on your phone of, instead of just getting an iPhone or an Android phone, there were like 20 other companies, and they all had their own apps, and there wasn't a ton of crossover between them. Like, you'd be so confused when you wouldn't even know which one to pick. And there might be a couple of them that are really good, but at the end of the day, it's hard to see 20 different companies being able to be super mega successful in that space. And I think that's really where we're at with cryptocurrency, is Lisk is a solid project, but at the same time, there are a lot of other solid projects. So obviously, if you're a fan of Lisk, then you think it is the one. If you're a fan of EOS, you think it's the one. But it's my job giving you these reviews to just set you straight and say, we don't know for sure which of these projects are going to be successful at the end of the day. But I do know that Lisk does have a good opportunity to be one of those projects for all of the reasons that we've mentioned. So thanks for watching today's video. Don't forget to smash that like button for us. Become a subscriber to our channel. Until next time, that was your Simplified Coin Review.